Welcome everyone, I am Evil, and today I will be explaining some arthropods. Specifically, I'm going to be talking about how they evolved, and what kind of relationships they have with each other, and when this happened, and maybe something about how you can recognize them and fun facts. Let's get into it. A few days ago I made a kind of a controversial video, and with this one I want to make something that's a little bit less controversial. Yes, the previous one did well, but I want to make something calm. I'm not going to get hate comments, I'm a sensitive guy. Well, actually, arthropods are kind of controversial, but not that type of controversial. Even the word I used, bug, is supposed to just refer to insects. But I'm going to be talking about all arthropods in this video, and I don't know a different common name for them all. Insects are just a part of arthropods. They are very successful but not their own phylum. Even the other arthropods themselves would be the most successful animals on Earth. So, if you thought humans rule Earth, you were wrong. There are over 100 million little bugs for every single one of us, and I think those odds are not very good. So I guess if I want to talk about arthropods, I also need to talk about their relatives. The panarthropods. Like basically all other groups of animals, they appeared in the Cambrian, but their soft ancestors were probably around before that. They have a few things common. They all have a segmented body and a dorsal paired nerve cord. And here's the kicker actually. They include arthropods, but also their close relatives, the tardigrades and the onychophorans or the velvet worms. And you probably hadn't thought of that before, but yeah, they do look pretty similar, so more you know. This group also includes the Lobopodians, and according to current understanding, all three of the modern panarthropod phyla had their start with these worm-like things, and that means Lobopodia is a paraphyletic group. Paraphyletic meaning that it doesn't include all of the descendants of the common ancestor. And because of that, I think this is a bit of an outdated taxonomic group, and I feel like many of its members are going to be reclassified later on into their own little groups. You might have seen this thing over here, Hallucigenia. It is a very famous member of the Lobopodians, but it only appeared during the Cambrian stage 3, at the time when all of the other lineages coming from them had already diversified. So it should be its own thing. It has a lineage that just died out, but we still consider it a Lobopodian instead of something else. And I feel like that needs to change. I made this kaleidogram to show the relationship between the different panarthropods, and you can just pretend that there's the Lobopodian groups added all around these things because they've diversified everywhere and it's hard to figure out where exactly they should be placed. And according to genetic evidence, tardigrades are closer to arthropods than velvet worms, and I believe that they do look more similar. And fun fact, scientists actually think that tardigrades used to be a lot bigger, and then they shrank down later on. With that out of the way, let's get into the arthropods themselves. They started diversifying in the Cambrian, and naturally you get a lot of new body plans, and in the process you end up with a lot of losers. Remember that arthropods didn't move onto land until much later, so now we are just talking about sea creatures here. So a bunch of miscellaneous weird things. To be honest, we would call most of these crabs in the modern day, like they do resemble crabs or shrimps a lot. In particular, there used to be a certain group of arthropods that was really successful at the start, but all of them went extinct long before even trees appeared. Very sad. The common name for them is the Dinocaridida, and they included the most famous members, the Radiodonts. They also appeared in the Cambrian stage 3. You might have heard of their most famous member as well, Anomalocaris, the anomalous shrimp. They are some of the first predators we know of and took eating other animals to the next level compared to before. If you were a worm in the Cambrian, These things would be your equivalent of a megalodon. They weren't that small either. In the Cambrian, they grow up to about 60 centimeters at the biggest, and later on they end up getting up to 2 meters. But the large lineage of them that was discovered later on was actually filter feeders, so they weren't hunting anymore. They are recognized by their long appendage things, and their teeth are in a circular pattern and previously were mistaken for jellyfish. They were really successful based on how many fossils we have of them, and they even survived into the Devonian, but they did end up dying out. Their niches were replaced by fish. Next up, the Opabinidae. They appeared and likely went extinct in the Cambrian stage 5, which isn't that surprising considering how they look, but I wanted to mention them. They are like radiodonts, but their two appendages are fused into one. Bambe de Lurion. I cannot pronounce it. They found this thing frozen in Greenland, also from the Cambrian stage 3. It was 55 centimeters long. Megadiction. A lot like Bambe de Lurion, but only 20 centimeters long, and it also had really big frontal appendages. It also lived during the Cambrian stage 3 and it has been missing since. I don't think the prognosis is looking very good. So that was the Dinocaridida, and you should know that there are also some Lopopods in there as well, but I didn't mention them because there are too many of them. I didn't feel like going into them, they don't matter. But with that we move into the Deuteropods. Defined differently from the more basal arthropods because their brains were literally built different. They have an extra part in their brain. You can guess where the deutero comes from, I guess. And I think I see a pretty clear sign about how the arthropods used to look like, because the basal deuteropods also look like radiodonts. This is Kyllinxia from the Cambrian stage 3 again. And it is really important because it tells us how our current arthropods used to look like at one point. You know, like all of them probably looked like this. And starting now I'm ignoring the other miscellaneous groups in the Cambrian. And that is because we get to the big boys. The split between the mandibulates and the chelicerets. So basically this is civil war. And naturally this also happened somewhere around the Cambrian stage 3, because of course it did. The chelicerets include horseshoe crabs, scorpions and spiders, while the mandibulates include crustaceans, insects and myriapods. Starting with the cheliceret side, because they do have less members. Chelicerets have two sections in their body, so they're like this. 4 pairs of legs, pedipalps and chelicerae in front of their mouths. And in modern spiders that is their fangs. And bear with me here because I actually went really in depth about them, because I'm not going to be making any videos about the chelicerets anytime soon, so might as well tackle them now. I need to study this. And in the Cambrian stage 3 again, they split, the cheliceret I mean. We get the Megacheira, which is probably not something you were expecting. They were called that because their cheira are mega. They died ages ago, probably in the Cambrian. Moving on. The Pycnogonids. You might have seen edits of these things. They are also called the sea spiders, and they are real. I can't believe they exist. They probably appeared somewhere around the end of the Cambrian, and interestingly it is not 100% certain if we should place them in the chelicerets or if they are completely separate from the chelicerets and the mandibulates. So they might be really ancient. And by the way, they grow up to 70 centimeters, so have fun with that. The next important group to split from the chelicerets are the horseshoe crabs. Nowadays they are barely hanging on with 4 species left. They split at the end of the Ordovician, and they have this tail thing that they are recognized by. If they went extinct, that would mean that we just lost an animal that has separately survived for 445 million years, and that would fucking suck. Notably, we aren't exactly sure if they belong here or in the arachnids themselves, And I'm very confused about how these things can possibly be related to certain spiders than other spiders are. So just keep that in mind. The genetics don't really lie, but it is possible to misread them, and maybe the scientists were just reading the data wrong. Maybe there were more mutations between certain chelicerates than the horseshoe crabs or something. I don't really know how that's possible. They do look really weird to be in the arachnids, but keep that in mind. And I think a major reason for this confusion is that they looked very similar and they separated rapidly, like 400 million years ago. Plus, we don't have many old arachnid fossils. In fact, we have almost none. Because of that, many of the relationships are very uncertain. Moving on to the Eurepterids or the sea scorpions. They are really fucking cool and split away from the arachnids. And notice that we jumped about like 50 million years forward because we are now in the Ordovician. So there's a lot I'm leaving out here. Eurepterids existed for a long time and only went extinct in the Permian mass extinction alongside the trilobites. So once again, big sad for them, but I am very happy they don't exist in our oceans anymore. The biggest Eurepterids were 2.5 meters long, meaning they were the largest arthropods we know of. Interestingly, while the early Eurepterids were really living in the sea, later species were more often in shallow areas and might have even been terrestrial. And that's definitely an interesting fact about the sea scorpions. With this we have officially reached the arachnids. All arachnids have 4 pairs of legs and the chelicerates and the pedipalps. In scorpions, the pedipalps, you can imagine these, have their claws at the end of them. Arachnids also don't have wings or antennae, but you might have noticed that before. My brother also told me an interesting fact about their legs are supported by blood pressure instead of muscles, which is why their legs curl up in a ball when they stop living, because they are only capable of doing this to their legs with their muscles and not extending them. Arachnids appeared somewhere around 435 million years ago in the Silurian and moved onto land somewhere around 400 million years ago. The first group to split off from them are the mites and possibly the ticks as well, though they might be 2 separate lineages that separated around the same time. This split also happened somewhere around 420 million years ago, but that's also not very certain. If this is correct though, that would mean that the chelicerates moved onto land multiple times. And I guess this is supported by the horseshoe crabs being in the water, and also because different arachnids have different ways to breathe. And next to split off are probably the harvestmen, or scientifically the opiliones around 410 million years ago, in the Devonian. And their common name might be my favorite out of everything here, because they are called the daddy longlegs for a reason. They have a fused body and long legs, and there's the name. People think they are super poisonous, and yeah, some of them do have poison, but it is not that potent. I personally really like them because we found them at the farm where I grew up, and they bobble up and down in the wind. Next up to split might be a group that included the horseshoe crabs, but I'm not very interested in the other members of the group at all. One of the members of these groups are the camel spiders, if you want to look for more info. So, leapfrogging them, we get to the scorpions. And these are for real the scorpions, not fake scorpions. Or by their scientific name, scorpiones. And they evolved around 430 million years ago in the early Silurian, meaning they are an extremely ancient group. Remember that the times aren't exactly clear with the separations, so the numbers aren't exactly final because we just don't have sufficient evidence. There aren't enough fossils to really make accurate assumptions. Scorpions might be the best parents out of all of the arthropods because they give birth and the mother often carries her children on her back. And I think this is some serious discrimination, because people call this ugly, but if you think about it, why is it? My guess for why it looks so weird is that they resemble parasites, But you know, when a monkey carries their children on their back, people say it's very cute. So what's going on here? Also, apparently, scorpions aren't usually that dangerous, but I'm not going to be taking my chances based on that, because there are some very dangerous species of them. So, out of the scorpions, we now enter the Tetrapulmonata. They are defined by having bug lungs, or a certain type of them anyway, and they include the real spiders called Aranea, and the whip scorpions, also known as the Uropygi, the short-tailed whip scorpions called the Schizomida, and the tailless whip scorpions, aka Amblyphygi. And I think they need to change the name of these poor things, because why would you call something that is not a scorpion and doesn't have a whip as a tailed whip scorpion? Rename this shit. The tetrapulmonets also evolved 400 to 300 million years ago, but because a sister group to modern spiders has a fossil from around 390 million years ago, I assume they evolved closer to the 400 than the 300 million years ago mark. Spiders fossilize super badly once again, so finding them is rare. And by the way, Aranea is a super big group. They include like 50,000 species we know of currently, and way more that we haven't described. And with that done, here's my, where is it? Cladogram, and you can pause it and read it and enjoy it with all its glory. Or you can even go back and listen to my explanations again, because that would boost the video stats. And remember, I could not put everything here. So, escaping the Chelicerates, you might have been asking where the trilobites are, and for now they are here. They are somewhere between the Chelicerates and the Mandibulates. We don't know exactly which group they belong in, but it is more likely that they were related to Mandibulates, because they have antennae like the Mandibulates and also had similar compound eyes. But it's not certain. The trilobites actually belonged to a group called Arthropoda, but the other arthropods weren't as significant and most of them went extinct in the Cambrian. Trilobites also evolved in the stage 3 of the Cambrian, though they were already very diverse by this point, so they might have existed a few million years before that as well. Trilobites were one of the most successful groups of animals in their time, actually the most successful, because we know over 20,000 fossilized species of them, and remember, they went extinct 250 million years ago. So their numbers must have been completely ridiculous. After them, we have the Mandibulata, of course referring to their mouth parts, the mandibles. And firstly, the myriapods. They are interestingly not insects. They are also very far removed from them, because myriapods actually separated before the hexapods. There also exists a group called Etycarcinoideae, which might have been a group of myriapod relatives that lived still under the water. These myriapod relatives were separated from the other mandibulates somewhere in the Cambrian, but unlike the trilobites, they don't fossilize so well, so it's kind of hard to figure out. These possible myriapod relatives went extinct somewhere in the Triassic. The first myriapods, however, appeared in the fossil record 428 million years ago, and they were already living on land, meaning myriapods were likely the first land-dwelling animals. Also, a millipede relative called Arthropleura was the largest ever land arthropod that we know of anyway. It might have even been the largest arthropod, but it is hard to figure out how much it would have weighed compared to the sea scorpions. And by the way, centipedes and millipedes separated somewhere like 400 million years ago as well. And what we have left now is the pancrustaceans. And yes, that includes insects. Insects are crustaceans, people. They are commonly called just crustaceans, but when you say crustacean, you don't include the hexapods, so that's why I'm saying pancrustacean. The first to split off is the superclass Oligostaraca. Superclass meaning that it contains multiple smaller classes. So phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. So yeah, it's the between phylum and class. And I couldn't find any information about when these Oligostheracans appeared, but I'm assuming it was in the Cambrian as well. But there's no fossils about them because they are a mix of small and disgusting. You could say their superstars, if you want to call them that, are the tongue worms. And I don't want to talk more about them, so I won't. Next up is the superclass Multicrustacea. They make up about 80% of the crustaceans, and they are probably the first things that pop up in your head when you hear the word crustacean. They include, but aren't limited to, crabs, lobsters, shrimps, krill, copepods, crayfish, barnacles, isopods, and mantis shrimp. And yes, when you say crab, you're almost certainly referring to the Multicrustacea superclass. This superclass includes a staggering 55,000 already described species, making them one of the most diverse groups of animals in the world. And naturally, they appeared somewhere in the Cambrian, but we don't know exactly where. And finally, the Allothriocarida. This unknown name has no unifying description for them, and I think this group basically means crustaceans that are more related to hexapods than other crustaceans. And I mean, even their name means weird tree shrimp, allo being weird, carida means being shrimp, and trio meaning tree. This group is actually a kind of new concept based on gene research and might be subject to change or at least renaming. They appeared in the Cambrian once again, and besides including the insects, they also have the remipedes, cephalocarids, and brachiopods, which you might have heard of. But I think the most interesting ones are the remipedes, because they are almost certainly the closest relatives to the hexapods, and they exclusively live in the ocean. And also they remind me of centipedes, and that's kind of weird because number one, they aren't that related, and number two, they are in the ocean. So how did this happen? And finally with that leads me to the hexapods. Notice I'm not calling them insects because insects are just one class in the hexapod subphylum. The hexapods also include things like springtails that you might have heard of before. Hexapods split from their crustacean cousins somewhere around 440 million years ago, and insects followed soon, about 40 million years after. The first fossil we have found of an insect is from 400 million years ago, and the earliest known flying insects lived much later in the Carboniferous, 328 million years ago. And with them covered, that actually wraps things up, because I'm working on a massive video about all of the insect orders, so stay tuned for that. It's going to take me a long time to finish though, so don't be too excited. And I guess I should recap the cladograms I made. So firstly, here's the mandibulates that I just discussed. There you can see that myriapods split first, then the Oligostheracans, then the Multicrustacea, which is most of the crustaceans, then the Allothriocharids are left, and then the hexapods split away from them. I didn't go into further detail because I feel like that would take a little bit too much time for the purpose of this video. If you want me to cover the crustaceans later on, I can make videos for them as well, because I will need to learn them at some point as well, so why not make a video about them? That's my philosophy for this thing. And all of these superclass subphylum level splits happened a very long time ago, so there's a lot of uncertainty. And naturally, because I brought up the mandibulates, I need to go further into the cladogram of the Chelicerets. Here you see the Megacheira. They split off but did not survive, and after that the spiders became a complete disaster. So interestingly, whip scorpions, the 3 different types of them, put like this, kind of makes you understand why the whip scorpions are called whip scorpions, because they are next to the scorpions in the divergence. The unfortunate case of the Eurepterids is also visible here, and remember Chelicerets and mandibulates are the two major groups of arthropods that we have left in our world. Then here are the radiodonts and their relatives, the trial run you could say. They used to be important, but their body plans ended up just being outcompeted. And finally, the panarthropods, the deepest level. I did not include the Lobopodians because all of them are far extinct, so don't worry about them. Also the Onychophora, I just noticed there is a mistake, they are still existing, so imagine the arrow goes to the same level as the other ones. And like and sub please, please help my channel. And with that out of the way, I think this video is wrapped up.